There we go. Ashley, do you want to start again?
I'm Ashley. I'm
Hi.
studying IT and business. So, what responsibilities do you have as a HR advisor?
So I'm a generalist HR advisor. So that kind of means that I do lots of different things across the day. So I could deal with like recruitment. I deal with any kind of employment relations issues that might arise. I can do some admin-based tasks. I do a lot of project work with well-being. So it is quite a mixture.
When you say admin-based tasks, they might not know what that means.
So it'll be inputting things onto our HR system that then goes through to our payroll. Or it could be inputting job descriptions onto the systems. It could be inputting different hours or annual leave entitlements to then update our bigger systems that we do have. I'm just trying to think of some other bits that we might do. So we, as a college, have to do keeping children safe in education and safeguarding training. It will be uploading all of that information onto our main server so that then we can show any outside bodies that we've completed the training that needs to be done.
Thank you.
That's all right.
So we've got legal things that we have to do like that you would make sure that is
Yes.
sewn up.
So and any health and safety training and things as well.
Aria, do you want to just introduce yourself and ask the next question? Yeah.
I'm Aria and I study business and law. And my question is, what qualifications does someone need for this job?
Okay. So for my role, you could actually work as an HR administrator and work your way up in the industry to my role. You don't necessarily have to have any qualifications. It's quite a good role in terms that you can either use your experience base or you can use qualifications. So for example, I've got a business degree and I've got a CIPD level 5 qualification
What does
in
CIPD mean? Chartered Institute of
professional development.
Professional Development, yeah.
And so that's a level 5 qualification that's specifically for human resources. But you could just use experience, it depends what you'd like. So you could also take another degree and have the skills and transfer them across if you wanted to as well. Or you could work throughout your time and build up your CIPD level qualification. So you could start at level 3, go to level 5, and then go to level 7, which would be your master's.
Where did you study?
I studied at Winchester University doing my business degree, and I also studied at Southern Oregon University as well in America for 2 terms, which was really interesting. So my university course did a transfer program that you could go over and do some business modules over there and then transfer the credits back to the UK. So that was really interesting. Yeah, that was really good.
Got a good opportunity to do that.
Yes.
Mm.
And I didn't know that I wanted to work in human resources either. So when I went to university to do business, I kind of just took the modules that I enjoyed doing and thought, okay, what kind of jobs would these like transfer into? And HR was one of them.
Wasn't it just that you just wanted to be nosy? Because I think that's what I would do HR for.
I really liked all the change management and people and organisation modules.
Yeah.
But there is an element of that. It is an interesting role. You never know what you're going to get. There's lots of different areas to it, so it's good.
Right. Would you like to ask the next one, Mary?
I'm Miriam. I study business and politics. So did you have any previous training when you first came, and also how long have you been in this role?
So I've been in this role for a year. I've worked in HR now for 5 years. When I joined as an HR administrator, but I didn't really have any human resources knowledge really, apart from what I'd done at university. So I came in completely new, not really knowing what I was doing at all, and kind of just learn on the job.
Did they pay for you to? So you got a job, and did they pay for your CIPD then?
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of my human resources qualifications I've done whilst I've been at work, and work have paid for my courses through the apprenticeship levy. So I've actually done apprenticeships whilst I've been at work. So my my job is essentially exactly the same. I've been paid what I would normally be paid anyway, but I've got to do the qualification through an apprenticeship. So you do the qualification and then you do an endpoint assessment, and then you get another qualification as part of the apprenticeship as well on top of that.
That's
So it's
excellent.
an alternative route
Yeah,
to getting qualifications if you're already in work.
yeah.
Always say, oh, do you use the apprenticeship levy, and see if your course is covered by that, because if it is, it's essentially sometimes free to your employer because they have to pay into that apprenticeship levy anyway.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely worth asking.
So, just to explain then, businesses have to pay the government an apprenticeship levy,
Yes, if
a
you
fee.
have a payroll bill over a certain
Yeah.
amount, the government make sure that you have to pay into this apprenticeship levy. And if your company doesn't use that, it goes straight back to the government. So it's actually in their best interest really to use it for their staff to upskill.
Yeah. Okay. I did know about the levy. I'd forgotten though,
Yeah.
but if a business is not using,
If you're not using
yeah,
it, that money
they
all
might as
goes
well.
back to the government.
So did you do CIPD at a uni? Did you go day release?
I did.
Or-
The first qualification for CIPD I did was my level 5, and I actually did that at EC College down the road. So I did an evening a week there. So I still worked on my normal hours. Then I did my evening at the college at Eastleigh, and then I did some off-the-job training. And then for my level 7, I've done it a little bit differently. So I'm doing that at the moment, which is my master's qualification, and I'm doing that as online learning. So there are loads of apprenticeship routes that you can do. So you can either go to day release, or they do online training. Sometimes they come into your place of work and observe you. So yeah, there's lots of different options.
Once you've got your masters,
Mm.
will you get a pay rise or a promotion? Or do you know what I mean? You're obviously doing your masters. It's gosh, that's really hard work. So what do you think?
I might not in this particular role, but it would maybe open a few more doors if I wanted to do management positions. So if a management role came up, it is essentially a human resources management master's degree. So it would open, because I haven't managed anybody myself, it would maybe open the door to that, and then I'd get more experience in doing management.
Juno, are you in the position to ask the next question? Which one are we on? We're on question 4 on the list.
Just getting down to it now.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to ask you. You do it.
How did you apply for the job?
So I applied for the job through our Barton Peveril website. All the vacancies are on our website. So I think I might have Googled to start with, actually, HR jobs in Hampshire. And then this was one of the ones that came up. And now I know that application is an online process, and then that application goes through to the HR office, and they get all the different applications that they can then see, and then that goes off to shortlisting managers throughout the college, depending on what area it's in. So yes,
What
it was
do you
quite a
mean by
long
that?
application process.
Can you explain what shortlisting managers mean?
So shortlisting managers is, so if you have a roll up, for example, if it was in the business department, the manager of the business department would get to see the applications, but they would be a blind copy version, which essentially means that any personal data is taken off of them. So you won't, the shortlisting manager who's looking through all the different applications to see who they want to take on to interview won't see names, they won't see any dates on there, they won't see the surnames of references or email addresses, and it's to make sure that when they're looking at all the applications, it's fairer. So you can't take into account anybody's age, race, sex, any of that. That's
really
all
good,
taken
isn't it?
off.
Isn't that good?
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
there are flaws in the system. Sometimes you can tell by names, or sometimes you can tell by how many jobs somebody has or when they went to school.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there are issues with it, but it is a fairer way of making sure that when you're actually going through that process, that you see everybody in a fair way.
So according to the Equality Act.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah. Brilliant.
What skills are needed for your job?
So I would say one of the main skills is communication. Good communication and active listening. I think that those skills are transferable across any kind of role that you want to do, because the amount of miscommunication in work is huge. So if you have good communication skills, you're set. You're always going to need to email someone, you're always going to need to speak to people in work. So they're kind of the main ones, I would say. The listening, we have a lot of people who come in and really just want to talk. They don't actually really need any response or any help. They just kind of want to
Offload.
be heard. Yeah. So if you can listen, that's brilliant. After that, I'd say probably organisational skills. The role can be quite busy. It's very varied. There's a lot of where we work in a college and we have to work towards the academic year. There's a lot of time restrictions, I suppose. So you have to get things in by certain dates. So I'd say really good organisation skills is good so that you don't miss anything as well. After that, those are probably the three main ones actually.
I suppose confidentiality is a big thing.
Yes. So there are things
Is that
sometimes
a skill?
you...
I don't know. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know, but that's a big thing, isn't
maybe
it?
discreetness.
Discreetness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to know things without knowing things. So maybe someone will come and talk to you about something, and then maybe a manager will then come and discuss that person with you to make sure that they're okay, and you basically have to say, well, I can't tell you what they've told me. So, while still giving advice.
Mm. Oh, I see. So you're like a doctor then, like a counsellor sort of.
But yeah, it is. It's a really interesting one. But yeah, so you definitely have to be discreet, and there are certain things that we can't disclose. Obviously, some things you can't keep confidential, depending on whether someone's potentially in danger. But a lot of the time, that would all be on us to keep hold of that information.
What's the best part of your role?
The best part of my role is all the people. You meet so many lovely people working in human resources. I think this might be if you worked in maybe a bigger company, you might not see as many faces as we get to see, just because sometimes it's a shared service system, which essentially means that people would be emailing in a bit more, so you wouldn't always get that face-to-face contact. Whereas we're quite a small team, and as a college, we're quite close-knit community, I think. So all of our staff, we kind of know face-to-face, so that's really nice. We've got about 500 staff, and although you get to know most of them through email, when you do get to see them, which is quite often, you get to have all the lovely conversations. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the best part of my job. The second best part of my job is working on all the different projects. So I get to work on a lot of wellbeing projects throughout the college for staff. So that's really interesting, and like setting that up and trying to make sure that we've got everything in place for like the next academic year to build on that and make it better every single year.
What do you find most challenging?
The hardest part of the job. Like I said, some people come in and they just want someone to listen, but sometimes you could have about maybe 10, 15 people coming in that day, all telling you all their different stories, and what's happening to them and about their life and their pressures. And sometimes that you're kind of like their emotional offload. So then keeping all of that can be quite difficult sometimes, because you're hearing a lot of things that aren't always particularly nice. And so it's kind of keeping hold of that information as well. So that's quite challenging.
Do you, as a team, have the opportunity to talk over these things so that you can share that?
We don't normally kind of discuss all the different situations. However, we are a really close-knit team, and so if someone's having a bit of a hard time, you'd be, oh, I'm really struggling today, I've had like a lot of stuff, it's really waiting on me, and maybe we'll go out and go for a walk, or we'll kind of pick each other up, or we'll go out the office for a little bit. Instead of looking at the screen, you'll go for like a 10-minute walk, or go and get a coffee, or just kind of be out of it for a little bit, so you can kind of get out that bubble and then get back to it.
Cool.
So if you were to give one piece of advice to someone looking to get into your industry, what would it be?
To get into the industry, say pick which route you would like to do it through, I think, and kind of have a rough idea of maybe where you'd like to be in like maybe a year's time or a couple of years' time, because I think having a goal really helps you pick what you want to do, and it kind of helps you work towards it. So it might be that you then have to start completely from the bottom, even though you've got a degree and everything else. It might be that you're starting a lot lower than you would like to start, but if you've got that goal of where you want to be in a couple of years' time, you can really aim for that.
So these guys could actually, after the college, go into an
Yeah.
apprenticeship straight away without actually doing
Yeah, you
the
could
degree.
do.
If that's, but it's
If that's
it's knowing.
Yeah, if that's the
what
route
you'd
that
like
you
to do.
wanted to do,
Mm.
you could definitely do that. I'd say that it's very feasible. It just depends on what route you'd like to do it through. Any skills you get from any job, I would say, are transferable into HR.
And what about the other way? So do you think HR gives you skills to work
Yes.
elsewhere? Having your own business?
Yes, massively.
Yeah.
I mean, communication, listening, organisation are all things that you can utilise in absolutely any role that you go into.
Mm.
And normally they'll be on job descriptions so as well. So it will normally say, oh, we'd like someone who's got good communication, we'd like someone who's got organisational skills that they can utilise, we'd like someone with flexibility. If you've got anything that shows that, definitely put all of that on your application, because soft skills are invaluable really, and you can pick them up throughout whatever type of learning path or career path you have. And sometimes I'd say even the soft skills are maybe not maybe more important, but you can learn hard skills. Soft skills are things that
What do you mean? Can you
learn throughout.
say the difference?
So soft skills are things like your communication, your organisation, your flexibility. Hard skills are maybe more job specific.
You can
So
drive,
maybe,
you've got
yeah.
qualifications, yeah.
So you can pick them up absolutely anywhere, and you can transfer them into any type of application that you want to.
Mm. Has anybody got any other questions they want to ask? What is the worst interview that you've ever seen? Have you been in any interviews?
Oh yeah, I've been in loads of interviews.
And what can you give us a story about, like a funny situation? I'm not putting you on the spot here, or somebody that said something that you thought, oh my god, you know, any tips for interviews? Do you know anything that you've come across that's funny?
So it wasn't actually an interview that I was sat on, but it's one that was part of our team. So we were looking for a new payroll and pensions officer, and they had the interview all set up, and it was with the HR manager and the finance manager, and the person who was being interviewed, after the interview finished, went, I'm not sure I want this job, but asked the finance manager, do you have any jobs in your department? Because I think I'd really like to work in that one.
Don't want to work for you, want to work for you.
Essentially.
Yeah, so I
Like,
take
I
it,
don't think this job really suits me, but finance would be really great.
yeah, so they didn't get the job?
No.
No.
I don't think they would have got it anyway, but
Just another thing that I'm thinking of while I've got you here is a lot of the apprenticeships with big companies now do assessment days. They have a really massive process of interview where they have, I know some of my students did JP Morgan, where they actually had nobody on the other side of the screen, and it was just questions, and they got recorded.
yeah.
And they were asked really odd questions, like if you were a biscuit, what type of biscuit would you be? And there was like about a 7-part process. Have you ever had involvement in the behind the scenes of that, or the assessment centres, or any sort of thing?
I haven't.
Right.
We do have a lot of big interviews that go on at the college, but then they're not ones that are like virtual ones. That's interesting. I have heard of the interesting questions, and it's all about your reasoning. So when you answer them, think about why you're answering that way, and then try and relate it back to something that's in the job description.
Oh, I see. So
it's about how you are trying to do it. So I guess.
So with HR, you could say that you're a custard cream because, you know, you've got the organisational skills surrounding a good heart, a soft heart.
It would be something along that.
Boom.
Winner. So yeah, it's all about how you've reasoned why you've answered the question in that way. And if you can relate it back to the job in some way as well, it shows that you've read the job description and you're analytical in your thinking. But I haven't actually done any of those. They're quite interesting. But we do have big assessment days here. So sometimes we will do, especially for the teaching roles, we'll do marking tasks. We'll get them to have like a tour of the college. And remember, all those parts of the interview are still parts of the interview. You might not think that people are, you're still being interviewed in those kind of down times, but they're all things that are being picked up on. So make sure that obviously professional throughout. They will then do maybe a talk with the subject leader of that role, and maybe speak to some of the team as well.
Lesson
and then,
observations.
Yeah, lessons. So they're doing micro teaching as well. Once all of that's being done, they'll then go through another process of an interview. But if that stuff isn't kind of where we would like it to be, at that point we would say, actually, we're not going to take you on to interview at this point. So we do have some quite big, sometimes they can last from kind of 8:30 until 4:30, depending.
So do you use some sort of form for each section to mark them?
Yeah, so that everyone's marked equally. There normally be 1 to 5, and then you'd tally up how much everybody had got over the morning's activities, and that's how you kind of shorten it down. Because sometimes you could have maybe like 7 or 8 people in the morning, and to interview 7 or 8 people doesn't actually sound like that much, but it can take a lot of time. Sometimes like 45 minutes per interview, and then a little bit of a break, and then talking about it afterwards. So it can be a really long process. But I wouldn't be disheartened by interviews. Just go in, try your best in all of them. If it doesn't go how you want it to go, don't worry about it. Just think next time, okay, I'd like to, I don't know, answer my questions a little bit better, or I need to research the company maybe next time. So you can definitely learn. All interviews you can learn from. I know they're not very nice. It's definitely nicer being on my side of an interview panel than it is being on the other side of it.
But looking at, I mean, next year you guys are going to do recruitment and selection, a unit on it, and where you look at the process. So you've just described our process, which is brilliant, and you will be looking at interview questions and being able to absorb and think about, how would I tackle that question? And you actually get to do an interview as well, so you get really good practice, and we get people in from industry to give you an interview, so it's really good experience.
Practice is the best thing. Even sometimes if you don't particularly want a job maybe and you get offered an interview for it, I'd say go for it, because they're so different. Like I said, like the biscuit questions and stuff, I've never had to deal with that side of it, so that would be quite interesting to do. But you can learn through all of them, and they're all good experience, and the more you do them, the easier they kind of are, the less nervous you become because of them.
More of your own personality can come across because you're not so nervous.
Or
you are, but you're not. You've got
focus. And the more you prep for them as well, if you can, prep. Think about the questions that they might ask you, look at the job description, and just try and take in as much information as you can. Also, you can take in notes. I take in notes to all of my interviews, so that if you've answered a question or you've kind of prepped an answer for it and they ask you that and you're a bit nervous and a bit overwhelmed, take your notes in with you. Take a moment to look at them. Don't worry about that. Will never come across as bad. It's going to come across as I'm organised, I've looked at this, I know what I want to say, but I can't quite get it out.
What happens to me is I forget the question. Completely.
And then go off on a bit of a tangent, and then I have to round back around.
I'm sorry.
What did you actually ask?
Anybody got any other things that they'd like to know?
Have you always wanted to work in HR, and also what did you study in college?
So no, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. When I was at college, I thought I might want to go to university, but I wasn't quite sure. So I did apply to go to university. At college, I did law, psychology, history, citizenship, and English, I think. And English. I think you put me on the spot. I need to have a look at what I noted down. No, it's fine. So yeah, I did them, and I applied to go to Plymouth University to do law. I did get in, but I kind of decided that I didn't think I wanted to do that. I wasn't quite sure, and I thought I might be going because of the wrong reasons. So I took a year out and I did some travelling. So I went travelling for that year, a couple of years. And then I went into, I needed some money by this point because I'd spent it all going travelling. And I worked at an insurance company for a little bit, which was, I met loads of really lovely people there. But again, insurance, it wasn't really for me. Although I do deal with some aspects of it in this job, I think. Didn't want to do it full time. It was a bit much. Although it was quite interesting because I did a lot of fraud cases, so that was quite interesting. But all of those skills from that job kind of made me think, okay, I don't really know what job I want to go into, but I really like the business side of it. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna go to university. I'm gonna go study business. So I did that, and then the program that I did let you do an exchange program to America. So I was like, oh, that sounds really good. So that was so interesting. If you ever get a chance to study abroad, the education systems are wildly different, but it's definitely an interesting experience, and you meet so many lovely people. And then after I finished my degree, I looked at all the modules I'd done, and I really enjoyed change management, people and organisations, and some of the marketing modules that I did, and kind of looked at what areas it was that I really enjoyed of them, and that's when I came to human resources. So no, I actually had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, and I am very envious of those people who just get up and are like, yeah, I want to be.
I never was like that.
No, I have a friend who wanted to be a podiatrist, so work with feet, people's feet, and I was like,
Why?
wow, how does that even come about? And then I was so jealous because I thought, oh, you just know what you want to do, so you know exactly what you need to study, you know exactly what you need to do for your next step, you know what university course you want to do, and I didn't know any of that. But honestly, it doesn't matter.
No, but look what you've done, because you've
yeah.
got that life experience from travelling.
Exactly, you find your way, and
same.
things like travelling, all of that, they're great experiences. So yeah, if you don't know what you want to do, don't worry about it. It will come. You'll figure it out.
Can I? Sorry to
No.
carry on, but there's one thing. One of the units that they're going to do next year is principles of management, and one of the topics is change management.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So it would be really useful from 27 minutes to talk about what it is about change management. What is change management? Have a seat, guys. What is it about change management that you enjoy? What is it? And if a company's going through change, how do they handle it?
Okay. So change management. I think the bit that I liked the most about it was how everyone's reactions. Well, generally everyone goes through like a cycle of how they deal with change.
So what could be a change?
A change could be something really little, or what you think would be something really small, like changing a system that everybody works on. So if you go from maybe Microsoft to Google, for example, that might seem like quite a small change, but if people are already used to working with something, that can actually be a massive change to their daily life. So that can be huge. It could be changing the buildings that you work in. It could be a site change, maybe. It can be anything really.
Here at college, they've had to deal with obviously site changes. So humanities team have had to go to
the
Stoneham Lane, and that was a big upheaval for them as staff.
I mean, it just seems like one thing, but it could be like, okay, so where do I park now? Do I have to change my route? Do I have to get in any earlier? Will my other routines change? Do I have to then come back to this site as well? How do I get from one to another? So I think any change you can then think about it a lot, and actually it has like lots of different impacts in your day-to-day life. So it could be like that, but essentially you kind of go through a change curve, and it's interesting just to see how people go. Some people will go through that really quickly and accept the change quite fast, going through all the different stages, and sometimes it will take a lot longer for other people to go through, and it just depends on how much this change impacts you. So
what do you consider if something's got to change, like going from Microsoft to Google or something like that, what do you consider an appropriate thing to manage that change, the process?
Communication. It's so huge. I found if people are communicated with about change, it normally helps to reduce the fear or anxiety surrounding that change. So if you can, and you know you've got a big change coming, maybe plan it so that you're communicating about it quite a good time in advance before you actually do the change, because the more information that people have, the less worried they will be about going through that change when it actually occurs. So yeah, communication, either by emails, consultation groups, so that's like a just having a group of people and having a discussion about it so that people can raise any of the issues that they've got maybe with that change, and then you can go back to them and say, okay, you raised this issue, we're actually going to look at this, this and this to help you with that problem.
Because they can offer obviously some solutions as well sometimes. Yeah.
And sometimes it might be that people are maybe worried about things that actually they don't necessarily need to be worried about. So for example, if you were working at Stoneham and you were thinking, oh gosh, like where am I going to park? Like, is that going to make me late? I don't need to be late. Am I going to have to leave half an hour early? You could maybe communicate that actually parking's already on site, so really that isn't going to be an issue with the change itself, so you don't need to worry about that. And once all of those kind of worries or concerns have been communicated and discussed, and you've put some of those issues to bed, then actually the change happens quite easily because no one's worried about it.
I had a situation where I've worked at, this is my 5th college now. So my first college was Southampton City College, next one was Tottenham College, next one was Brockenhurst College, then Richard Taunton's. All of them have had financial difficulty and have had to restructure at some point.
Right.
So that was massive change management.
Huge.
And the process for that was a lot of consultation, and actually the first step in the consultation was, is anybody thinking about leaving or retiring? And that meant if somebody was leaving or retiring, that was that money saved to alleviate the worry of other people losing their jobs.
So it might be with something like that, if you have that first consultation meeting and someone does say, actually I was thinking about retiring anyway, someone didn't want to renew their fixed term contract and you had someone who was going to leave to go to another college, that could be 3 people's wages. That might be all the money that you need to save. So actually that first consultation could resolve everything, and then you wouldn't need to go through any restructure because that has already happened.
And the communication with staff, even though it's a worrying thing, people are aware of it and actually they can try and help.
Yeah, definitely.
Switching off the lights, reducing the bills somehow, to try and help.
Helps.
If you've got people on board by communicating. Yeah.
So I'd say communication is really big for change. I also think, personally, it's really good to try and know yourself as well as possible. So that might sound a bit funny, but if you can do any kind of personality tests to find out what you maybe struggle with, or if you already know that you struggle with something, try and expose yourself to it a bit more so that you can get used to it. So I absolutely hate standing up in front of people. Doing presentations would be my biggest fear.
You're doing one now.
But it would be my biggest fear. That would be my real big worry. But the more you expose yourself to something, the better you become at it. Because I know that I don't like doing that, I will put myself in those uncomfortable situations to do it more, so that isn't a worry for me anymore. So yeah, if you get a chance, do some personality trait quizzes. I think there's one online. It's might be based on Myers-Briggs. I don't know whether you've heard of Myers-Briggs. You might have done.
Yeah, the ENTP type ones,
And it
Myers-Briggs is a good one.
will tell you whether you're kind of extroverted, introverted. It will tell you if you're a bit more assertive or whether you like to stay back. It will show you about kind of decision-making processes and how you kind of decide things.
It's NY, isn't it? NYER Briggs.
I think so, yeah. Double G, I think, yeah. If you get a chance, I think there's a free one. I'll send it to Anne-Marie so she can have a look at it.
Yeah, thank you.
They don't take very long. They're probably about 5-10 minutes. But it kind of tells you loads of information stuff. Some of it, don't get me wrong, you might not agree with it. You might be like, actually, that's rubbish. Or some of it, it might be spot on. You'll be like, actually, that's exactly me. And it will give you things. So it will also help you. If a lot of you do it in teams, you can then think, okay, that person doesn't really like having those maybe more difficult conversations, but someone else in your team might be quite happy having them. So you can kind of work your strengths in a team as well. So it can help not only knowing yourself, but also with teams as well.
Yeah. Has that brought up any other questions for anybody? All right.
So I feel like I just jabbered on, but if you've got any other questions, ask later and I'll send you an email.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
That's
all right.
brilliant. Thanks, Helen.
That's okay. I did also